Hi guys, I'm so glad that you joined me. Today we are looking at factorizing. It's an incredibly important section, not only in grade 10, because of course you use factorizing in grade 11 and grade 12 as well. So really important concepts that you would learn when it comes to factorizing. You always take out a highest common factor if you can. So the first thing you do when you see a question that requires factorizing is you look for a highest common factor. If there's no highest common factor, then you go through your steps and look at, is it a difference of two squares? Is it a quadratic trinomial? Is it a sum and difference of cubes? Can I group the terms together? Or if there is a common factor, you take the common factor out, and then you can also, once again, go through and look for all those different types of factorizing. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the questions that you need to be able to do by this stage. Okay, so the first question, we have to factorize b squared minus 2a minus b squared. Please do not be tempted to square the second bracket out because the question says factorize. And if you start simplifying by multiplying these brackets out, you will not get the full marks because we said factorize. Okay, so what do? I look for, does it have a highest common factor? No. I then go down my list and say, okay, let's check for difference of two squares. Are there two terms? Yes. Are there different signs? Yes. One is a plus, one is a minus. Remember, this 2a minus b squared, it's inside a bracket, so it's literally considered one term. If you want to, but it will make life more complicated for you, but you can say, well, let 2a minus b equal to x, and then you can see that this question will be b squared minus x squared. And then maybe you can spot the difference of two squares there. All right, so we've got one with the minus, one with the plus. Both are perfect square terms. So to factorize, I simply take the square root of the first term in both brackets, minus in one, and a plus in another. Now, because you're dealing with a bracket in the second term, when you say the square root of 2a minus b squared, you're going to be left with 2a minus b. So remember to put brackets around that because that will affect your signs. All right, so it's b minus 2a minus b times b plus 2a plus b. All right, so we end up with b minus 2a, minus times a minus is a plus, plus 2b. And we've got in the second bracket, we've got, this shouldn't be a 2, that's just a b. So it's b minus 2a plus b, and in our second bracket, we've got b plus 2a plus b. Okay, let's just go through because I've written this incorrectly, and you see how easy it is to make a mistake. The square root was in fact the square root of 2a minus b squared, and when I went to the next slide, I wrote the second bracket down incorrectly. That should be a minus sign, not a plus. All right, so we end up with 2b in the first bracket, or not 2b minus 2a. And then b minus b cancels, so I end up with 2a in the second bracket. Now you go one step further and ask yourself, is there anything else I can do? Yes, from this first bracket I can take out a common factor of 2, multiplied by the 2a that's already there, so I end up with 4a times b minus a. Okay guys, just go through that, check my working, check that I haven't made any careless mistakes, and make sure most importantly that you understand the concept. Very easy to make careless mistakes, but it's a lot more difficult to make a concept mistake. If you understand the work well enough, it will ensure that you do not make concept mistakes, and it will then ensure that you get the maximum marks in your tests and exams. All right, let's have a look at part B. So here we're looking at 6x squared minus 38x plus 40. And what I want to show you is a method that I showed you in an earlier session of grouping to factorize a quadratic trinomial. So I'm going to erase what I find on the screen. There we go. This is the one. Let's just erase what's there because I need the space to show you this, because some people who saw my alternate method of factorizing a quadratic trinomial may still be trying to understand that method. So let's do it again. We've got 6x squared minus 38x plus 40. The first thing we do with any type of factorizing is we take out our highest common factor if it exists. So it's 6x squared minus 38x plus 40. What is the highest common factor between these terms? It's 2. So I pull the 2 out. And I'll be left with 3x squared minus 38 divided by 2 is 19x plus 20. All right, so you can factorize this using the method of trial and error, where you list your factors on the side and then see which one will give you the correct factorizing for your terms. Here it's going to be 5 and 4, and work out your signs and so on and so on. I'm not going to show you that method. That's a method many of you may already know and be familiar with. The method I want to show you is where we use grouping to factorize this quadratic trinomial. So what we do is we write the product of A times C down. So A times C. So firstly we write A is equal to 3, B is equal to negative 19, and C is equal to 20. The factors of 3 and 20, A times C, 3 times 20 is 60. We then list all the factors of 60, and there's going to be a lot now because obviously we're dealing with a big number. 60 is a big number, but for many of you it's going to make it easier for you to factorize this quadratic trinomial than the method of trial and error. So you will go through, you will take the time, you will list all the factors of 60. So for example, remember it's positive 60, hey? So we can use positive 3 times positive 20. So these are now the factors of 60. All right, we can use positive 3 and 20. We can use negative 3 and negative 20. What else? What are the other factors of 60? We can go through and use all of them that we see. We can use, let's just have a look. And remember, the whole point of listing these factors is we want to get the sum of these factors giving us the middle term, which is negative 19. All right, so we can go through, and I'm going to call my calculator up here. There it is. And let's just check all the factors of 60. So we can do 60 divided by 15. And that gives me 4. So another possibility, and you will list all the other factors, but 15 and 4. So if we use 15 times 4, that also gives me 60. But if I were to add 15 plus 4, what do I get? I get positive 19, and I'm interested in negative 19. So how about negative 15 and negative 4? So negative 15 times negative 4, yes, that gives me negative 19. It also gives me the product of 60. So now to factorize my 3x squared minus 19x plus 20, remember there's still a 2 out there. We'll put it in just now. I found the values of p and q. P is negative 15 and q is negative 4. So I'll say it's 3x squared minus 15x minus 4x. So basically all I've done is I've rewritten negative 19. Do you see that? Plus 20. I'm then going to group the first 2 terms together and the second 2 terms together by taking out their common factors. So from the first 2 terms, I can take out a common factor of 3x, and I'll be left with x minus 5. And from the second 2 terms, I can take out a common factor of negative 4, and I will be left with x minus 5. Of course, you can see that this method relies highly on you being able to take out a highest common factor correctly and to group terms correctly. Therefore, my common bracket is x minus 5. I pull that out as a common factor and I'm left with 3x minus 4, which is the exact same answer you would have got if you had grouped using trial and error. Remember that in front of all of these there was that 2 that we took out as a common factor in the beginning. So we pull that 2 out and we leave it in front there. Okay guys, so this was just that alternate method. You really don't have to use it if you're uncomfortable with it, but for those of you who are struggling with the method of trial and error, this is another option for you. And do you see how important it is to take out that highest common factor of 2? Because if we didn't do that, we'd be dealing with huge numbers that we then have to find factors of if we were using this method of grouping that I just showed you to factorize a quadratic trinomial. All right, let's look at the next question. This is part C, and we are asked to factorize 1 over 8x cubed plus y cubed. So now we see this, powers of 3. So that straight away shows me, okay, I've got 2 numbers that are cubes, I've got a plus sign between them. That means I'm dealing with a sum of 2 cubes. How do we factorize that? Well, you open 2 brackets, one smaller one and one slightly bigger one. The first bracket is going to contain the cube root of the first term. The cube root of 1 over 8, x cubed, is 1 over 2x. How did I do that? Cube root of 1 is 1, cube root of 8 is 2, cube root of x cubed is x. Plus, because that's the sign that I'm given, the cube root of y cubed, which is just y. All right. In your second bracket, your first term is going to be the square of the first term in the first bracket. So it's going to be 1 over 4x squared. Your last term is going to be the square of the second term in the first bracket. So the square of y will give me y squared. The middle term is the product of those 2 terms in your first bracket, so y times 2x, which is y over 2x, with the opposite sign. So we had a plus here, therefore now we're going to have a minus. All right, guys, and then do me a favor, times this out and make sure that you end up with the exact answer of 1 over 8x cubed plus y cubed. You will find that your middle term should end up disappearing. It will subtract out because it's equal in value but opposite in sign, and you'll be able to get that your expression 1 over 8x cubed plus y cubed is factorized by those 2 brackets. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we continue with factorizing.